Hi, Claire.
Hello, Lisa. Great to see you today.
Good to see you too. I had so much fun in our last conversation, and I love that it sparked some questions in people who were watching, and even people that I would interact with on the street or have conversations with later. That it really seemed that it kind of got people thinking about this concept of men being good.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? It's so simple, and at least to me right now, it seems so obvious, and yet it's not. It's kind of almost a little bit provocative to say this right now, which is all the more
Totally.
reason to keep talking about it, right? There's so much more to say. We've just scratched the surface.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll admit I was a little anxious that there might be some blowback afterwards of people, who have had traumatic or unfortunate experiences who, how dare you say that men are good? Are you trying to say that all men are perfect? And I think it was really clear nobody's saying perfection across the board here. We've all experienced a lack of perfection from both genders, quite frankly.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I mean, you and I both have had our challenges. And I think that's part of what compels me to really talk about this is that there is a way to transcend those things. And that's to me, that's liberation, is
Absolutely.
transcending the past and looking for what's actually real right now in this present moment.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that. The idea of transcending the past, we've all screwed up in some way or another in the past. I mean, if we've been living outside a box, we've made mistakes or done things that we regret. And I think that there's something about a willingness or a desire to look at that and say, this is not how I want to be. This is
Yeah.
not how I want to show up and how I want to, exist now and especially exist in the future. And when that recognition comes about, that to me is where we have an opportunity, in terms of the work that we do with men to really help make a difference, to help be a support system in that journey of how can things be done differently and preferably
Oh,
better, in
absolutely.
relations with others. One during the conversation last week, it did spark one question that I've been mulling over since then. One of the viewers, a dear friend Doug, who lives in Alaska and does a lot of work with men in Alaska, his question was, "How can men restore their honor after doing harm?
Mm.
How can men restore their honor after doing harm?" And I thought that was such a powerful question and also a question that indicated a desire to move forward in a different way, to
Mm.
recognize, travails of the past and to look toward a more positive future. Um, it had me stumped for a minute, I'll be
Mm.
honest.
Mhm.
And anytime the word honor comes up, I'm gonna show my geekness here for a minute, but I think of, the series Star Trek: Next Generation, and my very favorite character on Star Trek: Next Generation was, Worf, and Worf was a Klingon, and Klingons were very tied to their honor, like, honor for them was the most important thing, and if honor had been destroyed or sullied or, soiled in some way, it was a big freaking deal. I mean, it was a very big deal. And so that question really got me thinking, y you know? Um, I don't know that there's super easy answers to that, but I do kn what it did seem to me to ask for is the recognition that restoring honor is an inside job, and that
Mm.
if we're looking for someone else outside of us to tell us that we're honorable, that that's an extra hurdle to leap over that might not be possible. Because especially if harm has been done, it might be very difficult to get the other person, and that's giving them a whole lot of control, in terms of having someone external decide that we're honorable or not, or that a
Mhm.
man is honorable or not. Um, Certainly making amends, recognizing struggles or harm of the past, being willing to face that and take responsibility for it, in my opinion, is a very honorable thing. One of my biggest frustrations with people is when they won't take responsibility for their own actions and the harm
Mm.
that they have done. And so a willingness to look at harm, to take responsibility, and to want to either make amends or, work forward in a more positive way, that in and of itself to me is honorable and something to be greatly appreciated. Um, and yeah, that to me just feels like a first
Mhm.
step.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I saw the question too, and I want to acknowledge you, Doug, for posing the question. I think the fact that you're curious and that you're thinking about how to restore your honor says a lot about you and your character.
Mm,
And so, I second Lisa that you're the only one that can know what honor means for you and how to restore it. I think, well, I know that one of the things that I really admire and love about men is how important honor is for them. I think for most women, I can speak for myself, that's not something that figures very high on the thing that I think about. Maybe it shows up differently. But in the men that I've had the privilege of having deep conversations with around this topic, it is just a very big preoccupation for men who are honorable. It can be devastating to them to feel that they've lost their sense of honor. And
mm,
so the desire to regain that, I think, is so admirable and says a lot about a man to want to feel honorable again. And I don't think that it's it's the job of other people, like you said, especially not maybe women, or certainly not me, to tell anyone what it means to be honorable. But I love that. I love hearing men talking about that. And, there's a great song called "One of the Good Ones." Can't remember
mm.
what her name is that sings it, and it's just a kind of a tribute to men who are, aspiring to be one of the good ones and to be honorable.
I love that, one of the good ones. That and I would be really curious to know, and, I don't know that men would be willing to share, but if there are any guys out there who have ideas or thoughts, in terms of what do you do? What has been helpful or successful in the past, um, to restore honor, both in relationship with others, but especially the way that you view yourself,
Mm.
because it all starts there anyway, and the ability to move forward in a more responsible, grounded, authentic, honor-driven sort of way.
Mhm.
That's all an inside job.
Yeah.
It's all an inside job.
Yeah, I agree. I think that would be an even more interesting conversation to have men weigh in on that from their perspective, what they've done or experienced to either lose or restore their honor. And I just want to say something quickly about even referencing a song called "One of the Good Ones." And you know, um, it kind of is counter to what we're saying that men are good when we use this phrase, "one of the good ones," or
Mhm.
"he's a good one,"
Yeah.
kind of making it sound like there's a lack and that the good ones are like the exceptions to the rule. I just want to note that I noticed that I said that and that I don't think about it in that way. I don't think that, finding a quote good one is an exception to the rule. I think
Mm,
that that's probably a term yeah, that I should probably stop even using because I think that doesn't help promote this idea that men are good, and the exception is when some men hurt people. I
mhm.
just want to clear
Mm,
that up.
yeah. Yeah, that's a good reference point. I think that there's uh, just a lot about taking responsibility, and that's where, especially in the work that you do, men who are really taking responsibility for the role of fatherhood and really wanting to be the best dad they can be to their daughter, to their child. That really matters. That
Mm.
really matters, and it's those who shirk responsibility and aren't willing to look at that. They exist too, or at least do, in situations. But there's always that opportunity to come back to
Absolutely.
that place of honor, to that place of responsibility, and a willingness to move forward there.
Absolutely.
Big topics on that. So I really appreciate that question and the opportunity to kind of dive into it. So what's kind of been percolating on your mind in this arena?
Yeah. So one of the things I've been thinking about that I would like to share about today is a challenge that I gave to myself that I would like to give to our audience as well. and this was a turning point in me moving out of a stance of bitterness and skepticism of the other half of the population called men into seeing that men are good. And that
Mhm.
challenge that I gave to myself was to go out of my house and look at what's really happening, what men are actually doing right now, right here in the present.
Mhm.
Instead of living out, reliving the past, looking for men to quote screw up, looking for men to do wrong or bad things, looking at the news or the media, like literally leaving my door, what is actually happening right here and now all around me with men. And I did a lot of things around this, like also talking with other people about it to make sure I was like noticing things and sharing it and actually like amplifying what I was seeing that were the good things and bringing more attention and awareness to them. And so what I saw was just incredible and just a real game changer. What I saw, I couldn't be out in public for, 5 minutes without noticing a man, picking up a small child with a skinned knee and kissing the bobo, or a man holding the door open for someone, or men on the street, digging potholes or and ensuring our safety by being cross guards and all these things like literally all around me. I tuned in to all of the good things that men were doing and all the good ways that they were being in the world.
Mm.
And it wasn't until I literally challenged myself to look for those things that I actually saw them. So I really believe, and this further reinforced, that we see what we look for in the world.
Absolutely.
And if we come from a belief based on old, hurts and wounds, which could be totally valid based on experience, if we come from a place of, men are hurtful, men do hurt things, men take advantage, whatever they are, we will see that everywhere,
Mhm.
and it will become the dominant theme when it might be a tiny, like microsecond, even of one person. It may not be all of who they are, but when I came to it looking for something different, I saw it everywhere. And so I wanted to issue a challenge to people watching this, men and women alike,
Mhm.
to for the next week to go out and look for men being good,
Mm.
whether it's in your family, out in the streets, online. Actually look for ways that men are good and let us know what you find.
I
Because
love it.
I think that, in real lifetime, the majority of men all over the world are out there protecting, providing, producing results, all of the really good qualities that 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 are so readily apparent when we look for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And you're so right in terms of the world we see is the world we're looking for.
Yeah.
And, wherever our attention goes and whatever we choose to put attention on is what's gonna dominate, our experience and our reality in the world. I think I mentioned last time, when I was teaching in college classes inside a men's prison and kind of went in with a little bit of an expectation of, "Ooh, this could this could be intense." And, what I saw was very different than what I expected, and started picking up on all the ways that it was such a positive experience, and all the ways that the students in the classroom were being respectful, were being, really thoughtful, participating, I mean, just all these things. But I also heard from the students there, and these are all, male convicted felons, pick your crime. But it was so interesting to me when in talking about their future, and talking about why they were taking college classes, working toward their degree, what they wanted to accomplish with that. I don't remember people talking about, "Ooh, I wanna make a bunch of money."
Mhm.
Instead, it was more conversation about, "I wanna make my kid proud.
Mhm.
I wanna restore my relationship with, whomever in their life. I wanna make myself proud. I wanna show myself that I can do life in a different way." And, in hearing that and seeing that, it gave me such a different appreciation for for that experience, and for the
Yeah,
people in it. Um, but you're right. I mean, examples are all around, from the person who
yeah,
helps the neighbor down the street when, a tree needs topped or furniture needs moved, or, when a husband has died and, someone needs help helping out with the kids, whatever the case might be. It's all around.
oh, absolutely. And your example of going into the prison, like talk about a desire to restore honor. That's what I hear when I hear you talking about that. People who want to make their kids proud, who want to, like it sounds like that impetus to restore their honor.
Yeah.
And, such a beautiful quality. And I think and also what you said about looking for these things that you mentioned, I want to clarify that when I talked about men out there protecting, providing, producing results, those things that are sort of stereotypical male,
Mhm.
I don't think that's what makes men good. I think, it's about also them being nurturing and caring. And there's not just this singular way that men are supposed to be, which I think is part of what is damaging for men, that we say
Mhm.
they should be producing results and all these things, and that's it. Like, I think what makes men good, well, they're just fundamentally good, but some of the good things that you see from men is the full spectrum, like the ability to embrace all of it fully, their full
Yep,
humanhood
yep.
about, because there is, in male and female alike, or masculine, feminine, whatever we want to say, is this impetus to be good humans. So men in their complete spectrum of, showing emotions or feeling emotions or all of those things are all part of, yeah, like, I guess the challenge is really to go out and watch men and
Yeah.
just see what's really happening with them instead of looking for any specific result or specific way of being in the world. Just watch what they're really doing.
And not looking for the bad.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea of let's find the good and celebrate it. I've been in conversations with men recently, who it became so clear that so many men that I talk to, either through my business or just personally, um, feel like they have very little support system
Mm,
that's willing to be open to all that's going on, whether in their mind or in their heart, that beyond the provide, protect, problem solve, that whole the tangible aspects of being a man, that it's almost like there's a discouragement of them to flourish in all the other ways that they're human, and so when people have to say, am I safe with you to share my feelings?
mm.
um and there's a part of me that gets a little sad that that's maybe not as common as I would hope that it would be out there, that men feel that they have some, um, support system to be able to be all of themselves,
Yeah.
not just, this, smaller package of what society said good, strong men are.
Oh, yeah, I think we touched on it last time, that men right now are getting so many conflicting messages about, certainly don't express your nature, which might be a little more aggressive, certainly, sort of more hunter kind of mentality. Certainly don't do that, because that's like not okay and dangerous and you're scaring us. And but certainly don't feel like, don't go over there and like show us your emotions, because we really don't care. It's kind of inconvenient when you like do that, because I need you to be strong. So whatever. So, I'm stereotyping a lot of things. I realize that. I'm just for emphasis. I think that there's like this, like, I feel this energy when I'm around men that are feeling stuck in that way of like this straitjacket kind of energy. Like, I can literally feel this energy of them being like, don't look, don't talk, don't see, don't feel, don't, just don't touch, just don't look. It's this sort of like constricted energy that I feel from them. And, look, I think everybody's got their own challenges. It's not just men, women have their own, there's all different segments of the population that are looking through different lenses about ways that we're constricted from being the full expression of who we naturally are, whatever that means. Um, but
Yeah.
today, since the topic is about men, this is something that I have a lot of compassion for as well. And I see that. I see the ways that men are bound from all angles in a lot of ways. And I think that kind of what you said earlier about the question about how to restore honor, like my my thoughts are that it's also an inside job,
Mm,
that every person can liberate themselves from within, from the constraints that society wants to put on them.
mm.
So I think that that is like the ultimate key to freedom. We are each individually walking around with the keys that unlock our own prison cell.
Yeah.
And at the at the same time, I also feel really strongly about contributing in whatever way that I can, like
Yeah.
through conversations like this, to be an advocate for raising awareness about the ways that we damage men by putting them in these narrow boxes, and therefore damage our society, our children, our relationships. It doesn't just affect men, it affects all of us when we insist that men be a certain way. And, I definitely, uh, I have a history of really, um, if you ever follow the work of Alison Armstrong, someone I really admire, she talks about, emasculation. I think we live in a culture that is incredibly emasculating to men, that really reduces their ability. She defines it as reducing the ability to produce results, which for the most part drives a lot of men, the ability to do that. And so, I've done more than my fair share of that. Maybe we can talk about what that even means on a next session,
Mm.
because that's a huge topic. So I think that we all have the keys inside of us to our own personal liberation, and we all have a responsibility to each other to help that be more possible.
Mm. I love that. And the idea that we can do that hand in hand, and that when others feel liberated, it's like a weight off our shoulders too. So often I felt
Yeah.
when my emotions have been put in a box or in a straitjacket or whatever, when I haven't been in a situation where it was welcome for me to express my full human, it was with men who didn't feel comfortable to own all of that side of themselves.
Oh
And
yeah.
so I so see how when we encourage and offer the freedom to be a whole person, regardless of gender, but be all of yourself, your mind, your heart, your spirit, your body, everything, allow all of that to come forward, own it all, and let's honor all of it. That is such a liberating place, and I was talking just this morning with my trainer at the gym. We were talking about how guys will often invest in their bodies, or invest in like toys, a boat or a four-wheeler or whatever. But really investing in mind and especially in their heart, and their feeling nature, their spiritual nature is not something that's necessarily encouraged to the same extent that we see among women, or
Yeah.
certainly not pursued to the same extent. And I just find that interesting, just something to note. And so when I see guys, when I see men who are willing to step forward and do the inner work to be the kind of people they want to be, and to even be willing to have the vulnerability to hire a coach or work with a trainer or work with someone, recognizing they might not have all the answers for themselves right now, and somebody else might be able to see a blind spot that they're not seeing for themselves. That takes a level of vulnerability, I think, and a willingness to recognize that sometimes we all need help in some way or another.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great act of courage. That's what I say to men who are willing to talk to me. Like the fact that you're here,
Mhm,
is the most courageous thing that you can do, because again, we are in a culture that does not encourage men
mhm,
to seek this out. I listen to a lot of men's podcasts and things like this, and one of the biggest things, because men speak in the way they know that men will hear. And they talk about, like, we promise confidentiality, like we do these retreats or workshops, and they'll stress the confidentiality, the confidential nature of this. And so when I
mm,
talk to men, that's one of the things that I stress, or in my messaging, it's like, this is totally confidential.
mhm,
And because realizing how much that seems to be replayed over and over, the way that men speak about these things. And I think it's to that point, that men in general need to know that it's confidential, that it's, that their friends aren't gonna know that they're doing this or things like that. Hopefully, that's changing. I do talk to men who are like, "I don't care." I think especially with younger men, like the millennial men, I'm blown away. We could talk about that another time, but, like, there's so many great things in the father world coming out from these millennial dads just being, like, super vulnerable, so I'm feeling very encouraged that there is a breakthrough in this world, and I think it's gonna come from men liberating men, like other men out there doing it, showing it that it's okay to be vulnerable. I'm really excited and encouraged by that because, we need men, all of them. We need men to show up. And I think as women or people who love men, I think the greatest thing we can do is encourage them, not even encourage like go get a coach or go talk to a therapist, but encourage them, create space for them, like intentionally to share all of who they are. Because oftentimes my experience with men is that it's not always voluntary, but if I create space for it and kind of become curious about it and show that like it's okay here,
Mhm.
uh, eventually it comes out.
Yeah.
So I think it's something that does need intention around it.
I just didn't realize how many they have that safe space, that
Yeah.
don't feel like they have someone who will genuinely listen without judging. And I think that's the main part is being able to be, have the courage to be vulnerable, to be open. So many men I've met are closed down, especially their heart just closed down. But to be willing to be open and to feel like somebody else actually cares without judging or without trying to angle for how can I manipulate this or in some way take advantage of this openness in a way that benefits,
Yeah.
that other person. And, what a crappy what a crappy way to interact with people.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that, um, so often in women's groups, we don't really, or at least my experiences, I haven't felt that way. But the thought of men not having an outlet that they can readily go to to just air it out, just air it out, and sometimes just
Mhm.
speaking it out loud allows the light bulb to come on, the aha moment and the problem solving skills and everything else. But when it's so whatever it is, so compressed and constricted inside where it can't breathe at all, that claustrophobic, feeling, um, it's hard to work through things. It's just hard to work through things that way.
Yeah, it creates a kind of an atrophy, a frozenness around so many things, and yeah, it's striking how many men apologize to me. "I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional," or "Sorry about that," or express tremendous gratitude, like, "Thanks so much for listening to me talk about that," or
Yeah.
just that real feeling like it's a rare thing for them, and, I guess that leads us to how you and I work with men. I think that's sort of the minimum that we both offer is a
Yeah.
confidential and safe space to be all of themselves,
Right.
to express their emotions or whatever they are as sort of a minimum sort of entry into doing further work, whether it's about, in my case, helping them to improve their relationship with their daughter,
Mhm.
which spills out into every other area of their life too. Frankly, it's just an access point. And in your case, how do you work with men?
In my case, it's recognizing the whole person, from an energetic level. And I think that most men are, if they're interested in honor, they're also, to me, the ability to access our power in an honorable way, where it's power from the inside out to do good versus power over people,
Mhm.
to that ends up being harmful. But in the work that I do, it's very much addressing, the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual aspect of that energy and really encouraging them to tap into that inner power that they've forgotten, that we all have access to, but society even tells us that inner power is something, to be afraid of or demonize in some way. But man, when you tap into to the power that's innate in all of you, not just one part of you, whether it's biceps or brain, or some other part, but in all of you, that takes potential to a whole nother level. It takes ability to produce results to a whole nother level. It takes the ability to engage and truly connect on in a relationship perspective to a whole nother level. It's some of the men that I work with, the idea of finding joy, and I may have mentioned this before, but it's just such a what? As if joy was like the pot of gold at an end of the rainbow that nobody's ever gonna find, that we don't have the leprechaun to show the way. And even tapping into things like that, what lights you up from the inside out, men
Mhm.
get to think about those kinds of things too. And the
Oh, yeah.
world is better when they do. And, some men I've talked to are like, I don't have time for that. That's superfluous. I don't have time for that. And yet, if they'll give themselves that space, because I don't think it's a luxury. I really don't. I think tapping into what lights us up, what is our innate power, and how can we bring that out into the world can allow men to engage in a way that blows their mind.
Yeah,
Yeah, it just blows their mind, and I see it, and that's why one of the reasons I love working with men because they so seldom have that opportunity in a grounded, safe, non woo-woo feeling sort of way to really look at those different parts of themselves and what's possible.
that's great. Yeah, helping men to operate on all cylinders. Yeah, not just a couple of them. That's the way I envision as you're talking about it,
Mhm. Yeah,
bringing all of their horsepower to the game. And yeah, I think that's amazing, and that's definitely what I aspire to do. Like I said, a man's relationship with his daughter, it's an access point, but it translates into his whole life, being able to improve this one very important relationship. And what I find so many men, especially with older daughters, is they feel like a lack of honor, like they haven't been a great dad,
mm,
and they don't know how or if they can improve it. And the thing that I would say to any of those men who happen to be listening, like, your daughter is waiting for you to just make a tiny move and she'll meet you with 1,000 steps. I've seen this consistently with daughters and dads. And so I definitely encourage men to check out what Lisa's doing, what I'm doing. We guarantee you, at a very minimum, a confidential and safe place to be all of who you are and to talk about whatever's going on. And we know a lot of other women doing great work with men. So if there's something that we don't feel like we're the right fit for, we can definitely introduce you to other great people who share this philosophy with us. The men are good.
absolutely. Men are good. Anything else you'd like to share today?
I think I just want to say that, just kind of a tribute to some of the fantastic men in my life right now. I'm just kind of bowled over at the way that men show up in all areas of life when you start to look for it. I've got incredible male friends and family members that as soon as I looked for them to be good and gave them permission to do the things that they do that they've been wanting to help me with or show me or support me, like, it's changed my life, and I just feel really really grateful, and you guys know who you are, and I appreciate it. So what about you, Lisa?
I love that. Friends in the same way, people that I know have my back no matter what, whether it's helping me to move furniture, let me borrow their muscles in their truck, or a safe place to talk when I need to talk, and when that's reciprocal, it's so appreciated. My dad has been in a nursing home for a while and just found out this weekend he was tested positive for COVID. And so it's interesting how that kind of to go from the big, big burly strong kind of dad to a place of vulnerability right now, and for a daughter, to see that and not be able to be there to do anything, to be helpful has been a bit of a challenge, and also makes me want to make certain, that he's really clear on how much I love and appreciate him. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
hello to Lisa's dad. I hope he gets better soon.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, for all of the
Yeah.
folks who have been watching, thank you so much for joining us. We've got a little challenge this week, the challenge of going out and looking for all the good being done, the good things being done by men in the world, and to acknowledge that. And I think we can acknowledge it to men. That's a bonus too, in addition to acknowledging it here and to each other.
Mm.
Because when we look for it, it grows. It just grows.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this has been fun. Look forward to next
Yeah,
week.
absolutely. Have a great week, and we will talk to the rest of you later. We look forward to your